Dave, is that you?
It's me.
Hey, welcome to Reppin Fitness.
Hey, thanks for having me. I've never spoken to a puppet before.
Oh, well, guess what? Guess what? I'm glad to be your first time because I'm the OG. I'm the OG puppet on Riverside. I was just looking
Very
at the
cool.
updates. There's new updates on Riverside's app here where apparently I can make you, Dave, I can make you look like a puppet. I can make you look like me.
Okay, that will be nice.
I don't know what I think about that. You know, I
Yeah,
worked hard. I worked hard to look like this. Now all of a sudden,
yeah,
AI comes in. I was okay up until this moment with AI. Now I don't know what to think about it.
yeah. I guess we'll see.
I don't know. Do you think maybe Riverside can turn me into a human?
That's what I was just wondering if it can do.
Yeah.
If it can do that, it should be able to do the other.
I'm gonna have to talk to them about this.
Yeah.
But
Well, if it does that, it might fix your shoulder, so you don't have to have that cane with you all the time.
oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'll have to get on the horn with them, see what's going on, you know?
Brick Headstrong! Brick Headstrong! He's got the reps to you! He's got the reps to you! Brick Headstrong!
But hey, listen, this is Reppin Fitness, and I gotta ask, did you go to the gym today?
Yes, I did.
Oh, what'd you work?
It was a total body day with cardio.
Total body. You were getting ready for the episode. That's what's going on, right?
Yep. Making
Oh,
sure
nice.
my cognitive abilities are good.
Now, do you normally go in the morning, or what time do you
Yes,
go?
yes. During the week, I'll go earlier in the morning, say 6:37. Then on the
6:37.
weekend, a little bit later, which will be maybe 9:30.
How often do you go? Do you go every day?
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing
Nice. Me
something every
too.
day.
Me
Yeah, so
too.
it's either cardio or on the weekends, it's the heavier weight training work.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. I like that split up. Now, do you remember the first time you went to the gym or you were working out?
The first time, oh man, when I was wrestling. So the first time
Oh,
I,
wrestling.
yeah, first time I actually trained with weights would have been sixth or seventh grade, and it would have
Sixth
been
or
a
seventh grade.
universal machine.
Oh, nice. Nice. Did you stick with it from there or did you take a
Oh,
break?
I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. Me too.
it allowed me to become stronger than everybody else, which allowed
Oh,
me to become a better wrestler, and people quit picking on me as much as well.
people were picking on you?
Oh yeah,
Why
oh
were they
yeah.
doing that?
I grew up with, so we're going back into the 80s back then, so
Right.
we didn't have all these acronyms that we have today. So it was just labeled learning disability.
Oh, okay.
So I had tutors and special ed classes most of my life. So that resulted in a lot of people picking on me. So in a long story short, I wanted to become the person that nobody wanted to mess with.
Oh, me too. That's what I'm about. But this is Reppin Fitness. We got to talk about reps, right? Rep ranges. Where do you like
Yes,
to stay at? Do you vary
all
it?
of them.
All of
All of
them.
them.
I
Yeah, I
love
mean,
that answer. That's
I
a
have a
great answer.
I have a powerlifting background, so the heavy
Oh,
singles are in my blood and have been in my blood since I first started. But you can't just do that all the time. You got to have the other reps. Um, I don't like to go over 15. Let's put it that way.
okay. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Brick goes over 15 sometimes. I get up
Yeah,
there. Sometimes I'm doing push-ups, right? I'll
yeah.
do push-ups
Well,
all
yeah,
day.
yeah. Well, you
All
have to
day.
go over 15.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Now, when you hear the word strength, right? What does strength mean to you beyond just lifting heavy things? You lift heavy things, right? What else does that mean to you?
The ability to overcome adversity,
Yeah, I like that. That's true.
because it's a constant in life. So some people make excuses
Right.
instead of take personal accountability. So to me, strength would be the ability to take personal accountability, no matter
Okay.
what it is.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. Now, you've been in the gym just as long as Brick. You've been in it for decades, right?
Yeah, over 4 decades.
Wow. That's a little longer than me. A little bit longer. But no, seriously. What changes do you have to make as you get older? Should people train different over time?
I used to say no, but I
Okay.
wasn't older when I said that. So when I
Right,
look
right.
back, when you're in your teens, you can pretty much get away with doing anything and make
Yeah.
gains.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, then you probably start to hit this peaking period in your 20s to maybe mid 30s,
Yeah.
and you can still kind of get away with a lot then. But once you start to get into your 30s, you got to start looking at things like sleep and nutrition a little bit more than maybe you would have beforehand. You
Yeah.
get into your 40s, then things change a little
Things
bit
start
more.
slowing down. They start
They
slowing
start
down.
slowing down. And then in the 50s, they slow down a little bit as well. So
Oh,
um, I'd say it's funny because a strength coach that I've known for a long time that's in the NFL now, his name is Buddy Morris, told me when you hit 50 is when you're going to realize, and I wish you never would have said that
oh
because,
yeah.
yeah, but it was true. That's when I started to have to level down my strength expectations. And I don't like to do that,
Right.
but you just start looking at things a little bit differently instead of, I can only do X today where I used to do that for 40 reps.
Oh yeah. I used to feel that way. Did you learn any lessons like the hard way from training or competing that still sticks with
Oh,
you?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
More than I could list on this podcast. But
Let's go with one. Let's
so,
just do
yeah.
one.
So for the broad overview would be, and this is a tough one because I'm going to say recovery is a huge thing, but
Right.
where I really want to go is I trained harder than what I really should have. And I'm a little hesitant to say that because I think most people in general don't train hard enough.
That's true.
So if it is somebody that's inclined to just work super hard in the gym all the time, take every set to failure, keep putting more and more weight on, there's a point of diminishing returns. And I wish I would have learned that sooner, and then I would have been able to extend my peak, my strength peak, a little bit
Oh,
longer. I don't want to say peak because it's never over till it's over, but
true.
my maximum strength peak I would have been able to extend a little longer.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now we were talking before we went on the air. You got your own podcast. Right in a gym.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
jealous of that. Now, what kind of guests do you got on that?
I would define it as people that would place training as one of their top four priorities in their life. So this can be competitive lifters, it can be strength coaches, it can be high-end personal trainers. Anybody that kind of falls into that category, I want to talk to. I want to talk to people that have been through the grind, you know, to be able to ask and get into some of the same questions that you just did, such
Yeah.
as, what are some of the things that you would have changed? How do you train now? What are things that have changed over time? And then I would love to speak to people that have gone what I would consider all in on something, because that's a very interesting topic to me. Because when somebody is actually all into something to where it is their top priority above
Right.
everything else, a lot of other things in life get pushed down. And once you've done that for an extended period of time, for whatever the purpose is, and then you go on to your next chapter in life, you kind of have to question yourself, do I really want to go all in
Right.
or not? And the interesting thing that I've discovered in the past couple of years is when people are in those phases, and it's a strength athlete per se, I find that they're all in on the things that they conveniently want to be all in on, but
Right.
they're not really all in when it comes to
Leg day.
how, well, leg day, and how having a community around you and a support system around you, sleep and nutrition and things like that all play in to them having a higher performance.
That's a good point. Now, you mentioned people. Do you have puppets on your podcast by
Never
chance?
had a puppet. Never had a puppet. Love to have a puppet. I have so many
Oh,
questions. So
I
many
might.
questions. Like, how do you train your arms to be
Oh, well.
to be in a state to where the biceps and the triceps are exactly the same size?
All right. You're
Yeah, I mean,
jealous. I know you're
I have
jealous.
so many puppet questions. How do you keep your neck symmetrical with your arms?
I got a lot of range. I got a lot of range of motion with my neck.
Yeah, then
I'll
how do
show
you
you here.
how do Yeah, then leg day. I'm very curious about leg day.
Well, anyways, next question. So there are a lot of coaches online, right? Like me.
Hmm.
But how can someone tell the difference between a real coach, like you and me, and some clout-chasing carny? What do you think?
I
Anything
have a
stand
couple.
out?
Yeah, I have a couple different thoughts on that. I used to have a ranking system where you would
Oh,
look at their formal education, who they have trained with, as far as training partners or mentored, what coaches they've had, um, how well they've done in sport themselves. Basically, what have they done? Who have they trained? Who have they trained to be better than them? How many years have they been doing it?
years.
So education and experience, because when you look at all those facets, just because one of them may be low, say their education, they don't have a PhD in exercise science or whatever it is, that can be offset by the fact that they've been doing it for 20 years
Right,
with,
right.
people with 40 years experience. So you have to look at a lot of variables. As times have changed and as we're in this AI generation now,
Oh, I hate it now.
yeah, my perception's changing a little bit more because, anybody that knows how to use a large language model already has the best online coach they could ever have.
That's true.
So communication is going to be the thing that I would look for now. If somebody was looking for a coach, is who has the ability to communicate with the person to be able to understand what their desired outcomes are and what the roadblocks are for those outcomes, and then go that route. And that would work if it's in person or online.
That's true. Now, like, how important do you think it is for a coach to just keep learning? And what happens if they just stop?
I think it's again when we're dealing with this AI thing, right? To
Right.
where learning and education is it's already kind of at the tip of your fingers, but there's a caveat here too. Um, where everything's at the tip of your fingers, but where I have this caveat is that most of the people I know still don't know how to search Google and know that there's a filter. So I'm not so inclined to believe everybody's going to be using AI.
That's true.
But with that being said, you know, they they're what they have to learn, the skill sets they have to learn are going to fall more outside of what people can find online or what there's going to be generated from some AI chatbot. And that falls back into the communication skills and being able to connect with somebody on a level to be able to help them achieve their goals, because that's not going to be, at least for now, able to be done digitally. And
Yeah.
I don't think the coaches are understanding that. So when you talk about, the online coaches that we all like to make fun about, their days are over. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah. I've been keeping mindful of what I need to learn. I just recently got my NASM certification just because I wanted to have it. I want
Hmm.
people to know I spend the time to get a little educated. But also, I spend so much time in the gym. I get to talk to people like you. I learned so much. My experience is
Yeah,
just growing, and I
yeah.
hope to keep
Experience
going.
is vital. Experience is vital.
Now, you founded Elite FTS, right?
Yes.
Now, I've done this before. I had a guest on Fit AF Nutrition, and I asked him what the AF stand for, and I don't think I could say that. What's the FTS stand for in Elite FTS, or can we not talk about that?
No, we can.
Okay, great. Let's talk about it.
When I founded the company in '98, it was Elite Fitness Systems, and then
Oh,
the internet abbreviated it. The forums abbreviated it to Elite FTS. And for a number of years, when I would speak to somebody on the phone or on a podcast or whatnot, I would have to say Elite, F as in Frank, T as in Tom, S as in Sam.
oh,
So many years ago, we rebranded the FTS to stand for Focus, Trust, and Strength, because those are the core
oh.
values of what our company is.
I like that. That's better than Frank, Tom, and Steven. I don't remember what you
Oh,
said.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a good move. Let's talk about longevity for a sec.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people, they think 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, they're going to make some changes. And maybe a little bit, but you got to be in there longer than that. What does training smart look like when you're in it for the long haul? Not just for that time period I'm talking about. Just 90 days? What are we talking about
Yeah,
past there?
that's always a tough one, right? Because
Right.
longevity has become this buzzword, and even the people that I know that are in their 50s and 60s, if there was a magic program or a magic exercise they could do to expedite their gains,
Boom.
they would all do it immediately,
Right. I mean,
right?
I would
So
too. I would too.
we all would, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I want
it's
to
the
get jacked.
same. It's exactly the same mindset as what somebody who's in their teens is going to have. So the conversation isn't really more about that. The way I kind of look at this conversation is how can you extend your peak absolute strength years?
Your peak.
Because we all know that that's going to decrease at some time. Father
Right.
time is unbeaten.
Oh.
So if everybody's going to have 10, maybe 15 years to where they're going to beat that peak output, but then you're able to extend that from say 15 to 18 or 20, you got to keep in mind that those are going to be those years that are over and above your top potential.
Okay.
So when you explain it that way to people, and then they can understand that when you're 50 or 60, then you look back at what that peak potential was, it could be 10 or 5, 10, 15% higher
Okay.
than what it would be otherwise. And that's significant. So long-term planning would be the answer to that is,
Yeah.
intelligent periodization.
When you're thinking about people that are just getting started in the gym, what's a mistake they're making that they should just absolutely stay away from?
It's such a broad question because my demographic is going to focus on people who take training more serious.
Right. Right.
So the biggest mistake I would see with them is going too heavy too often.
Right.
But if I step back and look at people that are just going to when I visit commercial gyms, and just look at people in general, the biggest mistake that they're making is if it's a commercial gym, hiring a trainer. That's the first
Oh.
biggest
Why
mistake
is
they make
that? Why is that?
because all the trainers in the commercial gyms are not very good. And if
Okay.
you ever visit one and just spend a half hour, an hour on a treadmill watching them, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The other thing would be with every machine that they do, normally there's a little card on the machine that tells you exactly how to set the exercise and
Oh,
how to
okay.
do the exercise. That's how they can check their trainer, by the way, is if their trainer's just setting them on the machine at the same setting that somebody else had, and they're not adjusting it to fit their own biomechanics, then the trainer probably doesn't care. The
Oh.
what I usually will direct people to is if they're really serious about their changing their fitness, then maybe not go to the commercial gym, go to the more private. I don't want to say hardcore because that's kind of a bad word for that. I don't want to scare people with that,
No, yeah, I
but
get you. I get you.
like a powerlifting gym or a bodybuilding gym or a CrossFit gym, go to one of those gyms because typically what you're going to find there are trainers that care more and that spend more time on their education, and they don't get caught up in the rat wheel of, training a different client every 30 minutes or every hour upon hour, year after year after year.
I was actually thinking while you said that, I've got a couple clients that I work with, right? I can't be there in the gym all the time because I'm at the gym working out myself. But one thing I tell them, and you let me know if I'm wrong for saying this. Usually, when I'm just starting with someone, I tell them get in there, make sure your form's good. Don't worry so much about how much weight you're putting on
Hmm.
because guess what? No matter how much weight, you're going to be sore after this workout's done, especially if it's your first time going in a while, you know?
Yes, yes, I would. The only thing I would add to that is be consistent. So
Right.
if you can only tolerate one or two movements, then just go in 3 times a week or 2 times a week, whatever fits your lifestyle and schedule, and consistently do that over a period of time. And then 3 months from then adjust.
Right.
Then you can make it from there. But they have to build that habit and consistency first. And the technique is huge.
Yeah.
The range of motion is huge because that, again, as I go look and watch people in these commercial gyms, typically what I'll see is um, quarter rep range of motion on
Oh,
everything, not just like squats. I mean, I get it with squats, right?
right. Some
But
people have bad
on,
knees. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's on machines and all these other things, and it it kind of drives you crazy as an observer of this because, if it's somebody that's 60 years old or 70 years old or older, we all know that if they just went through that full range of motion with that lighter weight, they would feel way better
Way
and get
better.
way more results from doing that instead of these little tiny choppy reps. But what
Ah,
I see a lot of times with that is when they move from machine to machine, they don't adjust the machine for one thing, and a lot of times they don't even adjust the weight. They're just using whatever the person was on before them.
right. As if they got to do what they do. You
Hmm.
can't go lighter because I
Yeah,
don't
and I
want them to be
can't.
stronger than me.
Yeah,
That's
and I
not how it
can't
works.
blame. Yeah, exactly. I can't blame those people though because they're ignorant, right?
Right.
And that's not a bad thing. They're new to the gym. It's up to whoever runs that gym or the trainers to teach them. Where that's where you come in.
Oh yeah.
Is to be able to help them and to be able to tell them what they need to do, and just the very basic things will take them so far. It's ridiculous.
Now, you and I, we've been around for a bit. We've seen some stuff, and there's some old school training principles, I bet, that still holds up today that people should be doing.
Hmm. Basic barbell lifts and progressive overload.
Bingo.
It's really simple.
Bingo. They go all the way. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not much more you have to do. You know? What do you think the lifting culture is missing right now?
Community.
Community? Yeah.
Yeah, community. Yeah, I even thought about this question a little bit before we got on, and it just keeps kind of boiling back into that. But where I stumble
Right.
is on what the next question would be is how do they go about fixing that?
Yeah.
And what I predict is because we live in this digital age and it just keeps becoming more and more digital every single year. And this started with the internet, right? So we're going
Right.
way back. We're going to hit a tipping point where people are going to start to crave to be around other people.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with
And
that.
when that happens, we're going to see people, start to massively migrate to gyms, bars, and restaurants, and then other places to where other people are. But gyms are in there, so that will be that community. But anything that can foster the community around it, even if it is an online coach or a fitness um, forum, I guess I'm old, I don't even know what they call them now. Groups or Facebook is groups, and I think Facebook groups are dead too.
Yeah,
So
they got
any
those
kind of community,
Discord channels.
yeah,
Discord.
Discord.
Yeah. But the one thing I was thinking about when you were saying that is I wonder, is there a Sim City for gyms?
Oh, there will be.
I know, right? Do you think they'll get jacked?
I don't think so.
No, probably not. Maybe their avatar. Maybe the avatar will.
The avatar will.
Yeah, they won't
This
be any
is
bigger.
Yeah, that will get into some crazy rabbit holes there of you know how many people are going to end up just living in one room,
Yeah, right.
with a headset on and being in their virtual life.
Yeah, really. I don't know. When you first got into fitness, was there anybody that inspired you?
When I first got into it, no.
No?
I think my inspiration was just coming from, I love training. I loved the fact that it made me a way better wrestler. But I did have people along the way where one of my first wrestling coaches, my mother was late picking me up and I was running the stairs after practice for a long time, 45 minutes or something like that. She
Whoa.
was really, really late to pick me up.
That's a lot of steps.
And yeah, the coach walked by and asked me what I was doing, and I told him that I was sick of getting beat. And his reply to me was, if you work harder than everybody else, that will guarantee you'll never get beat. And that stuck with me, and is why part of the reason is, people like him, there's been several of them throughout my life that have made a huge difference. It's why I founded the company in the first place.
Yeah. When you look back at everything you've done, your lifting, coaching, bodybuilding, powerlifting, wrestling, is there something that you're most proud of?
Yeah,
Oh,
I founded the company with the aim to live, learn, and pass on. And the reason for that was for that coach, like I mentioned there, and several other coaches that took the time to help an LD kid, when nobody else really would, and never charged me anything for it. and this is all the way up through Louis Simmons, who's world renowned as a powerlifting coach and training with him for 14 years. None of these people ever charged anything. So I wanted to be able to give back for what they gave me, for especially when I first got online, because we're going back to dial-up. You might remember that.
AOL.
And my concern was, at that time, there were people that were selling ebooks. Everybody was trying to monetize fitness. And my worry was I wouldn't have been able to afford that when I'm 12 or 13. So how are we going to make sure that we disseminate that information down to everybody so they can use this to be able to change their life too? So what I'm most proud of is when we founded the company under that aim in 98, I now sit down with people on podcasts that they are coaching a ton of people themselves. So they are passing on, but they've learned from somebody that learned from somebody who was a contributor onto my site.
Oh,
so I'm seeing this.
That's amazing.
I'm seeing this actually happen multi-decades.
Yeah,
with
incredible.
that, to where you have a vision, right? And you kind of aspire to see that vision, but when you actually see that this has happened through not just the coaches that we had on the site helping people, because at that time you're like, wow, are they doing that because they're trying to get clients, or are they doing that for whatever reason? But when you see the people that they helped now helping other people, and then those other people are now on my podcast because they're helping other people, then we're doing exactly what was intended to be done.
Now, you said you were a wrestler, right? In high school?
Junior high school and my first year of high school.
What was the style you were in? Was it folk style?
Freestyle.
The freestyle? Was that your favorite?
Yeah. Yes. It's one of my regrets is I wish I would have continued with that. But at that time period, there was, I also played football.
Oh, yeah. That's tough. Two
so
sports there. They collide.
Well, it became a body weight issue where I didn't want to wrestle as a super heavyweight because I didn't necessarily like wrestling the super heavyweights I had to wrestle back then.
What weight class? What weight class did you like?
Right under the super heavyweights, or I may be wrong on this, it was like 181.
I think that's right.
Something around there.
That's what it used to be.
And then I played football, and I was powerlifting at the same time too, so I was growing. And so I was falling around 210, 215. So I didn't really want to cut down. I didn't want to wrestle. This is going to sound politically incorrect, but I didn't want to wrestle all the fat slobs that were the super heavyweights. Was essentially what it wasn't the same sport as what it was in the lighter classes. Now it is, because those guys are now jacked.
They're beasts.
So they're just absolute beasts. So that would have been different. So my choice was to go into football, which was probably a good choice because it taught me teamwork, which I'm not too sure I would have learned otherwise.
Yeah, because wrestling is kind of a one-on-one sport, but obviously the team, you're a team together getting those points, but one-on-one.
And I like the one-on-one, and that's why I went into powerlifting, because with football, it doesn't matter how hard you work if everybody else doesn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now we're talking wrestling. This is a little different wrestling, but let's say you're going to the gym and you needed entrance music, kind of like a pro wrestler, right?
Yeah.
What song would you choose? What comes to mind?
Oh, wow.
I'm also adding it to my playlist, so it better be good.
I'm going to throw you for a loop here, and I'm going to say Christina Aguilera.
What?
Army of Me. And because that song basically is about the very start of it's kind of about vengeance.
Okay.
Kind of coming back, but throughout the song, it's about turning adversity into personal responsibility. And, when you're broken, to be able to take those broken parts and make them the strongest parts.
Whoa.
And kind of move that way. So it's more about what the song actually represents and means, at least to my core, and more so than anything else. Because I could say, like Black Sabbath, I could put a lot of things in there, which would just be more dynamic intro music. But if I have, there's certain songs like that one there that if I go to that, and I won't lie, I like to put on before I'll do a big lift in the gym.
Oh, really?
I like to put, oh, yeah, I like to put on music that will inspire me for ways such as that, but that I also know will drive everybody else in the gym nuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that.
And that's definitely one. Britney Spears is another one that would drive people nuts. The
Britney
Spice
Spears.
Girls drive people nuts. Oh yeah. I just like to put it on in the gym and watch everybody's reactions because
Oh,
the
yeah.
eyeballs start. And to me, it's like if you need a certain song to be able to do something, then you're mentally weak to begin with. So it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that was not the answer I expected, but I'm glad I asked. A wide
why I
range of
gave it
music.
to you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I gave it to you.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for sharing your story. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from this. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
before we go, though, what's something we can do to get stronger without needing the gym? What's something people could do? Activities, exercises? What stands out to you?
So I'm assuming physically stronger,
Yeah,
but I'll include mentally stronger in there as well.
I like
Walk,
that
I mean, the default answer is going to be able to do body weight exercises,
for sure.
but I think now that people need to just walk more, get more
Yeah.
steps,
Steps or
get
reps.
outside,
Steps or reps.
and if they can get outside without listening to a podcast, unless it's your podcast, right?
Yeah.
Or my podcast,
Yeah.
but get outside
Either
and
or.
just get away from the distractions and just walk. That's going to help them more than probably anything else they could do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like I said, steps or reps too. You got to get them in. We need a lot of movement.
Yes.
Humans
Yep.
need to move. You can't be sitting around all
Exactly.
day looking at a screen. It's okay when you're watching our podcasts, but
Yes.
I think Dave and I both agree. You should listen to our podcast while you're outside walking
Or on a treadmill.
or on a treadmill when the weather's bad, for sure.
Hmm.
But hey, Dave,
Yeah.
thanks again for being a guest on Reppin Fitness. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next repisode.
Brick Headstrong! Brick Headstrong! He's got the